Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of the Modern Day Miracles podcast. I'm your host, Kennedy Moore, and this episode I'm so excited for because I get to bring Jesse and Jacob on the podcast, and we get to hear from just life changing stories about how God has worked in their life and created their path for what they're doing now. So I'm super excited to bring them on. I hope this episode is as encouraging as it was for me, you. And yeah, I hope you're inspired to look out for your next miracle. So here they are. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Modern Day Miracles podcast. I'm your host, Kennedy Moore. And today we have two very special guests, Jesse and Jacob McGill. I'm so excited to bring them on. They are just full of wisdom and joy and laughter, and they just have so much to offer, and they've grown me so much in the past 2 years that I've got to know them. We met through our college ministry that I used to go to, and yeah, I'm just so excited to bring them on. So welcome on, Jesse and Jacob.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited.
I can't wait. It's so exciting. Let's go ahead and start just with just a little brief background and maybe just a little bit about your testimony.
Well, I'm Jessie, and I grew up in a Christian household. We went to church every Sunday, youth group every Thursday, and then I graduated high school, and I went on a couple missions trips, and then I went to college, and I was like, okay, this is like definitely what I want my life to be like, and I want Jesus at the center, and so I just like dove in. And I went to InterVarsity, which is where I met Jacob and Kennedy, and it just helped grow my faith so much. And now I get to follow Jesus, and it's such a joy.
Yeah, and I was sort of similar. I grew up in a Christian household. Both my parents are believers. But I was a little bit more rebellious. I didn't necessarily want because I had this idea that Christianity was just you had a boss looking down on you the whole time, telling you what to do, and I didn't really want to do that. So I was had my little rebellious season and went and partied a lot when I was in high school, and I took a gap year between graduating and when I went to LCCC and tried to get my associates. And then I was just partying a lot during those times. But it was my initial move from Colorado that went and kind of sparked, you know, getting a relationship with the Lord. So it was actually through a false prophecy that Jesus was coming back, and I realized, oh, I am not ready to meet Jesus face to face. So I went and made a pretty drastic life change, started getting serious about the Lord. But then it wasn't until I started reading the scriptures that I was like, oh wow, like, you know, God isn't just a boss. Like he's someone who wants to have a relationship with me. He's someone who wants to be involved in my daily life, and he describes himself as a father. So I just went and got another father figure added to my life, and yeah, just hit the ground running.
I love how you put that. Yeah, it's just screw another father figure, no big deal.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I love the contrast between these two because obviously you can hear from their testimonies, like, just the stark differences, and how God led you guys together is just such a beautiful story, and I just can't wait to get into all that. Yeah, how did you guys meet? Like, what did that look like?
I was living in Laramie. I was in my junior year of college, and I was so content in like my singlehood. I was just living it up. I had just some really good girlfriends. I was a part of InterVarsity, and I was just leading a Bible study, and I was working at this after school program, and I was just having a grand time. And Jacob was living here.
Yep. Yeah, I was living in Cheyenne, going to LCCC, a part of the same campus ministry, so I was still part of the university. Just made a really good solid group of Christian friends and was just hanging out. It was actually funny because InterVarsity has their two camps. They have their fall con in like the fall, the early part of this first semester, and then they have their spring break trip called Mark Camp. And for people who don't know what that is, over spring break, usually half a spring break. It's not all of spring break, but it's usually from like that Friday to the Wednesday. Um, or Saturday to the Wednesday. Anyway, it's not the whole spring break, but a good chunk of it. They go and pick a location to go to, and they study the Book of Mark. And usually they'll have two parts of that, so that way they can go and bring you back for Mark 2. But so we went to that initial first Mark camp that we were both a part of, and it was over in Grand Junction. But Jesse had gone to the fall conference, and I'd met some of my friends that was going there, but I didn't go to the fall conference. I can't remember why I didn't go. I just didn't go. So we could have met there, but
Yeah.
we didn't.
I think it was great though because like I feel like God really grew me in that from like fall conference to Mark camp. Like
Mhm.
I think that season was so important in my own life. I don't know about like I guess it was like October to March for you. I don't know what your October
Yeah.
to March looked like, but for me I think that was such a like just an important season my like for my walk with Jesus.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just got to grow like my independence and who I am. And yeah, my 20s were a good time.
Yeah.
But it was such a God thing that we both went to Mark Camp because my family was going to Florida for vacation. And I was like, oh, I kind of want to go to Florida. And my mom was like, well, Jesse, like, you're a leader. Like, you probably shouldn't, like, the leader should go. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And then, like, as it got closer, I was like, I'm really glad I'm going. And then Jacob, like, the
Yeah.
day of.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, it was actually the day before we were
Oh, the
getting.
day before?
Yeah, I was going and depositing a check that I'd got from the school cafeteria, because that's where I worked while I was going to classes, with the school cafeteria. And I went and I was going to deposit that check, and we just had this really bad like snow, and it had snowed so much and it started to get warmer that it would just freeze, right? It was just this thing of ice. It would melt during the day, get these big thick puddles of water, and then at night it would get to be like in the teens, and it would just create this big huge sheet of ice. And so I was going, and at my bank you have to go and make this pretty tight turn to get to the ATMs. And so I was going and I hit that patch of ice, and I started sliding. I'm like, oh no, but I didn't want to go. I should have just gone up over the curb to like prevent any damage from happening. But if you went up on the curb, like 3 feet away is this ledge that throws you down onto the sidewalk and onto Del Range. And Del Range is like the busy street. So it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that. So I just slid into the curb, boom, but it broke the knuckle bolt on my car. So my tire was then sitting like this, because it's that piece that holds your tire straight up, and it just snapped. And it's like, oh my goodness. So I had to go. The bank actually called a tow truck because I was holding up the line for the ATM, and they're like, "Oh, we got to get this kid out of here." So I went and had this tow truck go and drop my car off at my house and stuff. And my mom and dad were just like, "Oh man, that kind of stinks, but you should still probably go to this Mark camp because I think something's stopping you from going." And so we found a replacement driver to go to Mark Camp, and I was just so upset. I was just like, man, this is gonna cost so much money. I'm a poor college kid.
Yeah.
So like, going and having that on my mind too. It was just crazy. And yeah, I told myself, I was like, I'm not even gonna go. Like, I'm just gonna go try and pick up more hours at the cafeteria so that way I could pay for this. But yeah, both my parents were pretty encouraging and wanting me to go. And yeah, so but it was funny because on the way up, my best friend, his name's Jacob too, and so we were going and we were talking, and he's all like, "You want to know how crazy it would be if we found our future wife up there?" And lo and behold, I met my future wife up there. Yep. Yeah, I definitely think it's a recent miracle for sure. Just because, yeah, I was going, and when I had first got saved in 2020, there was another cool little twist to that. So my testimony spans from like December 23rd all the way to like January 7th, I believe. And so December 23rd, I got scared from that false prophecy, and I was like, "Ooh, I am not ready to meet the Lord face to face." Like I don't have now I understand it's like a relationship that the Lord wants to have with you, right? It's not anything you can do because we're saved by grace through faith. So that no man can boast, right? How awesome is that? But anyway, um it's just like at first I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm such a bad dude and I haven't done anything to like deserve a spot in heaven. And then after reading the scriptures, it was like, oh wow, like, there is nothing I can do to deserve a spot in heaven. It's all through faith by grace, right? Or by grace through faith. And so, starting to go and understand that, I was just like, wow, God, like, thank you for softening my heart and opening my eyes to the gospel. Like, I just, it was just such a weight off my shoulders knowing that I can't, even if I wanted to, I can't do anything, and yeah, it's just a freeing feeling. But so then I was starting to go and get really on fire for the Lord. All I would do is just go, like, from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, was go online, look up sermons, did some apologetic work, read my Bible. I did like the inductive Bible study method. So it's like observation, interpretation, application, and I can't remember what the P stands for, proclamation. So it's like observe some of the things that scripture is telling you to do, interpret that in a non-heretical way so that way you can better understand it, like put it in your own words and make sure you're staying away from heresy. And then the application, how can I apply this to my life today? And then from that application process, how can I go and proclaim what I'm learning to other people around in my circle? And so I was just doing a bunch of that. And then yeah, January 7th, I was just like, man, I have this buddy named Jake who still lives in Colorado, and I'm like, oh man, I need to go see this guy. I just have such a strong feeling to go see this guy. And so I went and I told my parents, hey, I'm taking a trip to Colorado. Like, I'm going to go down and see what he's doing, what he's up to. And I go out to my car and, um, my car has a flat tire. And it's always got something to do with the wheel with my car. But so I'm
Always.
always, which is good because tires are generally, one of the cheaper parts that you can fix on a car. But I'm going and I'm just like, oh man, like, I still felt this super strong feeling to go and talk to him. And again, I went in and I was like, hey, I got a flat tire, like, but I still feel like I need to go talk to my buddy. And both my parents were like, yep, like, go, you got to go, take dad's car. And I'm like, okay, sweet. And so I went, got my dad's car, drove down to Colorado to see my buddy. And I'm like, Jake, what are you doing, dude? I got to his house and I'm like, Jake, what are you doing? So we went and got to talking and stuff. And I hadn't really told a whole lot of people that I didn't tell a whole lot of people that I had gotten saved, only like my inner circle at the time. And after graduating and stuff, like, and moving from Colorado, it was like a lot of those friends that I had made, just be like, I don't want to say became distant, but there's definitely like moving from circles, right? And so like I was like, okay, yeah, like I think I told my inner circle, and now I think it's time to go and start to tell people in the outer circles about what the Lord had done in my life. So I went and I gave him my testimony, and I'm like, dude, and this is what God's doing in my life, and he's still at work. And it was crazy because he started to tear up in his eyes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like the gospel is working, right? Like this he like, you know, and he goes and he starts tearing up and he's like, you want to know what's really crazy about this? Is I prayed to God to give me something to start and strengthen my relationship with the Lord again. He's like, I've noticed that I became distant and I wanted to get back on track, but I needed help. And, I asked God and, he sent you. And with that, we both start bawling and we give each other a hug. It's like, oh, like God is still working. How amazing is this? And so from that moment on, it's like I was just like, man, ministry, like this feeling, I want to do that forever. Like I want to do that full time. And so, I went and, my whole plan was to go and start school, get my associates in psychology, just so that way I could have a better transcript, to then go and apply for seminary. And so I went, did my first year, had a pretty decent looking, first couple of semesters. And I was like, yep, just keep going on this track, get a really good transcript with my associates, and then ship off to seminary. But then that spring break trip came, and I was just like, oh, this girl. I was like, there was this girl that just rocked my world. And I was like, oh, she loves the Lord. She's
Oh.
super like, driven. She knows what she wants to do. She's an extremely hard worker. And I was just like,
Mhm.
and everybody just loved her. Jesse says that she doesn't really have a whole lot of friends and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But when we
What?
went to, yeah, exactly. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly. Little
when we,
humble.
yeah, yeah,
She's just humble. She's humble, guys. Okay.
yeah, yep, he's humble. But I remember the very first morning, because we didn't get into Mark Camp until like 2 in the morning. And so
Mm.
I didn't meet Jesse that first day. And then I go and I wake up and I'm getting my breakfast, and all of a sudden, all the girls just start shouting in the hallway, "Oh my gosh, Jesse, Jesse! Oh my gosh, Jesse!" And I'm like, "Who's this Jesse girl?"
That's
So I go
hilarious.
out with my yogurt and I'm all trying to act nonchalant. I went and I was pretending to go to the bathroom, but I really just wanted to see what the commotion was about, right? And I go and I see Jesse, and I'm just like awestruck. I am just like, she is gorgeous. And so,
Aw.
just ever since then, like, and I'm a pretty like extroverted guy. I have no problem going and talking to anybody any time of the day,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah.
like, they're people and I love people. But Jessie was the first girl to go and like give me cold feet, and I was like, oh my goodness, there's something special about this girl. And so we started talking a little bit at Mark Camp, and I also don't necessarily know if I'd call myself like an awkward guy. Like obviously I can be awkward and a little, like I can goof up what I'm trying to say and stuff. Everybody does.
Yeah.
But I remember I was like, oh man, I just want to talk to this girl so bad. The very first thing I asked her, I came up to her and I was like, so how do you get your hair like that? And she's all like, oh, um water? I'm like, oh goodness, Jacob, like you totally messed that up.
Oh
So,
my god.
and she was trying to be nice, and she's like, oh no, I know what you mean. Like, yeah, this is my hair, and she was being super nice, and I'm like, nope, I already messed it up too bad. Like, not gonna get her phone number in this conversation for sure.
For
So,
sure.
but
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
But so then, so I met Jess. She made the first move. She got my Snapchat. She likes to point that out that she made the first move. So she got my Snapchat. We started talking and we started dating, and then my priorities kind of just changed, and I was like, well, maybe I should start to think about like potentially providing for a family and stuff like that. And I was like, I kept trying to tell myself like, oh, and this would be good for any girl, right? I knew Jesse was the one, but I was like, this would be good for any girl. Like, this is a good application for any guy who's trying to get serious about creating a family. It's like, how am I going to provide? And so I was like, well, I guess my dad's an accountant. He does an amazing job providing for us. He's also an extremely hard worker. Well, like he's an accountant, busted his butt, made a really great career from that. But he also went and worked two other jobs to make sure he was providing for us as well. So growing up, he had three jobs, and so it's just like, oh man, like this dude works hard. And so then I started to think about that, like, okay, how can I work hard and really provide for a future family? And I went and was like, well, I guess I should, start thinking about that. So I switched my degrees from psychology to accounting, got my associates in 1 year. I had to take like 3 summer classes,
20 credits like
20 credits each semester. And then I don't know if I did have to take another summer class that year after. No, because I graduated. So I took 3 summer classes and then 20 credit semesters, got my associates, and I'm like, yep, like that felt good to do, like I was all like, yep, I think this was the right move to make. But still, through the midst of that, even though I had accomplished that, I was just like, there is something missing. Like, it doesn't feel right. So then I went and I moved to Laramie, was going and trying to finish out over at UW. And at that time, Jessie was starting her first year teaching, and she was back in Cheyenne. So we switched places.
one for the other.
Yep, one for the other. And I was just like, man, like, there's still not something feeling right about this. And like I even went and I was praying and I was like, God, if it's just me missing Jesse, like everything's gonna work out the way you want it to work out when it comes to there. So if that's a motive for me, like please just help me get over that. Like I just want to make sure I'm living for you and doing what you want me to do. And there was still just this level of discomfort there. It's just like I was not doing what God has wanted me to do. And so then I went and I was like, well, I guess UW is just not for me, right? And so I went after that semester, moved back home to Cheyenne, and I was just like, yep, I don't think that's it. And so I was going and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and didn't really have any direction. And again, I was spiraling because it's like, well, what am I supposed to be doing? And then in the midst of all that, we got married.
Yeah.
So totally great timing, right? Moved back home, had no job.
It was like 3 jobs back. Like he was working at Walmart in Laramie, then he started working at Target, and then after Target he started HVAC. So
Yep.
it was like it was just like such a jump. But
Yeah.
I was just like on the flip side, like I was just like, I want you to be happy. Like I want you to wake up to go to like a job that you like really love. Like I didn't care what it was at that point. I was just like, I want you to just be happy. And so we were like praying about like what direction he should take. And he kind of thought like HVAC was like the direction.
Yeah.
But then I guess like in a miracle in that self was like, he's doing HVAC and then God just like really broadened his horizons. And you can never like mess up the timing of what God has for you. So like HVAC, I think is a great like job for him to like go and minister to people in that field. It's a very like hard, I would say a hard place. It's
Yeah,
like
I mean
just tough
construction,
guys.
yeah, tough dudes.
But even in the midst of that, like Jacob was still like, I think I really want to be a pastor. Like I have it on my heart. It's been on my heart for like a really long time. I've kind of tried to like, I feel like you tried to like kind of downplay it or like play it off to like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the reason why I downplayed it was because I didn't want to see, like, I didn't want to show my wife that I was struggling. And it's like, why would you keep that from your wife?
But
Right?
you were though, like
I know, I
job
was.
to job. Yeah,
Yeah.
you were like, what I want to do, what I want to do. And
Yeah.
And it was so hard because like I've known that I wanted to be a teacher my whole life. And then I was in the middle of my first year of teaching and then he's like struggling with like what he wants to do and like what his passions are. And so like it was definitely like really hard.
Yeah. And I think the reason where all that like discomfort and like questioning of what I wanted to do came from was like God showed me the wonderful like just the great feelings and the fruit that you can harvest in ministry from my buddy Jake. And it was like from right then and there I was like, yep, vocational ministry is something that I would really love to do.
Yeah.
And so, but then I went and, and it's not anything that Jesse did, right? It was just me getting in my own head. I was just like, oh, I got to provide, ministry that's got to be something I do simultaneously. And, I was going and and there's nothing wrong with bivocational ministry. The people who are bivocational ministers are oftentimes some of the most efficient ministers too. So it's like, people who are in small towns or just a new church plant, and you can't, I think every bivocational minister should go and strive to be a vocation, like have that be their main vocation. But if it's not something that you can do in that time and you have to have another job, like all praise and props goes to them, because it's like that's hard work right there. And but anyway, so it's like, yeah, I was just like, vocational ministry is something that I really wanted to do. And so Jesse had touched on it. I was working at Walmart in Laramie, tried to transfer Walmarts back to Cheyenne, and there's weird stuff happening where like all the two Walmarts in Cheyenne were just like, yeah, no, like we'd love to have you, but we can't have you be full time. Like we just don't have enough hours for you to be full time. And I was like, well, I kind of need a full time job because I'm getting married and bills to pay. And so I was going, and that that wasn't working out. So I just went and worked for Target. Growing up, I worked for Target before, so like I had a good reputation with Target, and they hired me. And it was in the middle of their Christmas season. We got married December 1st, and it was in the middle of their Christmas season. So I was getting 40 hours a week. I was showing up every day, making some really good connections there, evangelizing there. And then, the Christmas season ended, And then I had, they started cutting hours and stuff, and I'm like, I can't, like, guys, I need these hours. And they're like, no, you deserve these hours. Like, you show up every day, you never call out. Like, you deserve these hours.
But then they
And
don't.
yeah,
They give him like 20.
yep. And it would just be like, it would just be lip service to just try and keep me content. They're like, oh, next week you'll get some more hours. Next week you'll get some more hours. And then yeah, there was one week I worked 20 hours, and I'm like, I can't do this. So I started shopping around, and a buddy of mine that I became friends with at LCCC, he was working at HVAC, and so he was like, yeah, no, like, come work for us. We're always hiring. So I went and I was like, okay, yep. I signed up, went, did my job application. Um, the interview went really good. He offered me the job on the spot, so I took it. 2 weeks later, I went and started working HVAC, and I did that for like a year and 3 months. And so in the beginning, it was hard because of you know, like, the work didn't really bother me. Like, it was hard work, but the work didn't bother me. It was the people. Like, those dudes were they were tough on you, and I was like, oh man, like, and I really hadn't done a whole lot of working with my hands before that, and so like I was kind of trying to learn everything, and those guys were just really tough. They're just like, oh man, like, you're gonna be worthless here. And it's like, oh geez, don't tell me that, right? So there was some discouragement there, and some just I was just like, yeah, is this for me? But then I went and I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna continue to show up every day. These guys couldn't have been as amazing as they are when they first started. Like, they had to have learned their trade too.
Mhm.
So we went
Yeah.
and we're going and we were working, and I was showing up every day and I was learning a lot. And then, yeah, I think it was probably around the 6 month mark where it was kind of like everything started clicking for me. So I was able to go and look ahead and, get stuff ready and have things prepped for all those other guys, and projects started moving faster and whatnot. But there was still just like discomfort there. And I was like, I still, I don't even know if this is really for me. Right.
Yeah.
And so Jesse and I went and sat down and talked, and I was all like, "No, I definitely want to get into ministry full time. Like, that is
Mhm.
that is what I want to do." And so Jesse, I mean, she's just been supportive through everything. When I went from Walmart to Target, she was supportive. When I went from Target to HVAC, she was supportive. When I went from HVAC to my current job now as the next gen director, she was supportive, and she's just like, babe, just keep doing what God's calling you to do. Like, and I was just like, wow, like, not every guy gets that, but I do.
Mhm.
And so I went and I've just been praying every day, so thankful of the wife that God has blessed me with, because I mean, I truly believe that he handpicked Jesse for me. And so I couldn't have even created a better wife. Like, she is just amazing. I don't know. Yeah. I can't even put it into words how amazing she is. But so she was super supportive of me starting my seminary. So I started my seminary back in
Like December,
December.
January maybe.
Yeah, I think it was December. And we were going, and I started doing that. And then in April, the pastor of our church,
Like out of the blue.
out of the blue, he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, so," and he's a new pastor there, like our senior pastor retired. He's working for it starts with a P,
Wayman or something.
Hoyman Ministries, and so he's just going and he's like discipling pastors who are already like in their role but are brand new. So he's going and discipling them, and like and he's got this wide network all over the world of these pastors who he's helping out. And there's actually a pastor in Germany who's getting ready to take a sabbatical, but he didn't have a replacement for 6 months. Maybe it's three or 6 months. I can't remember. But he's like, I need a sabbatical. I need someone to take my job as I take the sabbatical. And so Sean and Sheila, his wife, were like, yep, that's what we're here for. So they traveled to Germany, are going to be living there for like 3 or 6 months, taking over for that church, and until their senior pastor comes back from sabbatical. But so our current pastor, he's brand new in the role. He's dreaming, vision casting what he wants done with the church. And one of those is they want Calvary to grow. And so um they're starting to go and brainstorm and dream how they can do that. And one of the things that they had come up with was like creating this internship program. But they can't call it an internship program because that would require you to pay the people. And they just raised enough enough money to go and make a children's add-on for the church, and they're like, okay, yep, that was plenty of money. Like we gotta start saving up for the next project now. And so they call it a discipleship program instead, and it's just where
The cats.
yeah, the cats. And they went and they were like, okay, we're going to do this discipleship program, and we're just going to start raising up the next generation for pastoral ministry. We're going to show them what that looks like on a daily basis in hopes that they come to Calvary. But, obviously these people are going to go and go where God is calling them. So if we can just even help raise some of that up and ship them out somewhere, like they want to do that too. They're like, amen to that. There's nothing like, they're all like, there's really no loss there. Like,
Because it's like the church, you know?
Right.
yeah,
The
because we're
kingdom,
raising
yep.
up people. Yep, we're raising up people to go and send out to the church or God's kingdom. It's like we're gonna go and we're gonna be aiding in some way or another there. And so I was the first person that Doug contacted, and he's like, "Hey man, like we're gonna start this new program, and I was wondering if you'd like to, you'd like to start it, like if you'd like to be in that." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, like absolutely!" And I told him, "Hey, I just started seminary like 4 months ago, because at this time it was in like April." And I was like, "No, that'd be awesome. Like this is seriously such an answer to a prayer." And so I go and I get started, and they prefaced like, "This is not." They're
Like
while
no jobs.
yeah while we're going and doing this isn't necessarily something that is going to get you a job at Calvary. It's just going to show you the process. And I'm like, you know what, that's still going to be super beneficial for me.
Yeah.
So I would love to. So I'm starting and doing that, and then 2 months later, the youth pastor who was at Calvary went and put in his 2 weeks, and Doug was like, well, I guess there is a job opening. So he went and sent me an application. He sent me an application, and he was like, I want to give you an interview. Nothing's guaranteed, though. Nothing is guaranteed. Just fill out the application. If you get an interview, be faithful to the interview, and let's just see where this journey takes us. And I was like,
But
absolutely.
in the midst of this, Jacob was like getting more like comfortable in his job, and
yeah, I was super content there.
in it, and like he was actually coming home like every day, like, man, I really love it. Like the guy that he was working with, his name is Brad, and he's like, Brad and I are becoming like really close friends. Like Brad will just like call Jacob and be like, hey man, I just want to tell you about like what's going on now. And so like they became like really good friends.
Yeah.
And so I think it was because like Jacob got more content that like God was so faithful through that.
Yeah.
And I just love that God was like, I don't know what the right word is, but just like it was a full circle.
Yeah, it was. And I think the reason why God did that was because when I started my seminary, I went and was like, oh man, when I get done with my seminary, then I get to go and tell people about the gospel like all the time. And then it hit me, and it was just like, man, even though I'm working not in ministry, I can still tell people about the gospel wherever I'm at. So I was like, and when God goes and uses the language called, like that's to all Christians. So the Great Commission, like that is a call for all Christians, not just people in full-time ministry. That is to all Christians. And so it was like better understanding that and being like, you know what, I can work in a non-ministry job and still have a ministry there. So I was going and I was being faithful to that, and I think God was just like,
and God even showed that to me though too. It's like my husband just got this amazing pastor job, and then it's like, well, I'm not working in the church, but that's okay because like my ministry field is right where God has me, and like you can never compare where God has you. So like you just have to make sure that you're putting everything that you can, showing Jesus. If it's by loving people, telling them about Jesus, your actions, like as long as it's in your ministry field. Some people it does happen to be a church. Some people it happens to be a hospital or a school or like wherever it is. But like God will use you if you're ready and able and like willing to actually like put the work in and show up and just like love His people well.
Yeah. Yep. And then our youth pastor went and put in his 2 weeks. I went, filled out an application, did an interview, and got the job.
It was like a crazy flip of our life. It was like we were like talking about like like what like our next like year will look like, and then like Jacob called me, and he like doesn't ever call me at work, and so he called me, and I thought he like fell off a ladder, like he broke his arm, he like broke his leg, like he cut his finger off, like because he just never called me because he was always working, and so he calls me, and I'm like, babe, are you okay? What's wrong? Did you like fall off the ladder? Did you hit your head? And he's like, guess what? I was like, what? He's like, Doug just called me and he wants me to have a job interview tomorrow. And I was like, what? Like, it was
Oh,
crazy. It's like that happened on like a Thursday, and they like
wow.
got the job on like that Monday or Tuesday.
I think it was that next week.
But it was just like our life, it totally flipped. It was crazy, like in the best way possible. It flipped, but
Yeah.
like we just were not expecting it. And so, like a miracle, like the timing of God, like you just can't
Yeah.
mess it up. You can't do things or say things,
Yeah.
and it can't be in your own timing. Because I think we would have liked to do something different,
Mhm.
but it's like God was like so faithful, and His plan is so perfect. And in the midst, it's like, we're trying to like fix it, and we're trying to control, and we're trying to do this and do that, and then think
Yeah.
of what ifs and think about how we can, do it better. But it's like God has a perfect plan, and you can't mess it up, and you can't intervene. So it's like we had no idea what was going to happen, and God was really faithful. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how you brought up it's like timing and then like the contentment thing about it's like it truly is like a heart check. Like he's heart checking you before, you fully get into the role and even offered even in interview, I love how they weren't breadcrumbing you like, oh yeah, if you do this then you'll get this and then you'll get the job and then this is the process. It was like, no, like, this is just kind of for you, just beneficial kind of thing. Like it's no promises or anything. But I love, yeah, you can like just see clearly God's timing in every single step of
Yeah.
that. And I love the fact that you brought up like the contentment in your own place because it's so funny how God works like that because yeah, when you aren't content and you're like, oh, my life would just be so much better if this, and I was in this place doing this instead of what I'm doing. But as soon as you were content, he's like, oh, well, I guess you earned it now. Like, I'll give it to you now. So I
Yeah.
love how you brought that up. And yeah, just what a beautiful picture of like God's perfect timing and just the process of everything that he got to be in and work through and change you throughout the whole process. So yeah, I love that. That is such a cool story. Wow. So fun and so cool. Jesse, now that we have heard Jacob's whole life story, which I'm super, super grateful. Not to make that sound bad or anything. Like seriously, that was so cool to hear and just get to experience. And I just love truly like your just love for the gospel and how you were able to experience how the gospel truly changes people's lives with a close friend. So yeah, what a awesome experience with the Lord. So with that, Jesse, do you want to share like I guess your whole life story now? I'm just kidding. Do you want to share maybe some of your miracles or whether recent or not or yeah, whatever you want to share?
yeah, I feel like sometimes like I look at other people's lives and I'm just like it seems like God is so evident and like so working. So like as Jacob's wife, I'm just like, oh my gosh, God is like so at work and like it's such in a big way. But in my own life, I feel like I mean other people looking in might be like, oh God is so evident, it's such a big thing. But like in my personal life, I just feel like it's like a string and it's just like a thread in like every single moment and like the people and the places that I've been and like it's just like this string that God is just so faithful and like he just like shows up time and time again for me. And like there's just like so many stories I could go, but like I started working at Montessori and I met this family. I started babysitting for them when I was like 17. And then I like started nannying for them and now like we live in their apartment. And so like even that is just like a string of events of like God was so faithful in that. And then like how I got my job, as I'm going into my third year of teaching, but when I got my first year, I had worked at a preschool, I think when I was like either 19 or 20, and I met this teacher there and we kind of stayed contact and when I was like in college and she texted me one day out of the blue and she's like, hey, we're hiring for a first grade teacher at a different school and
Wow.
you should apply. And I was like, okay, like I will apply because I just taught in first grade. And so I was like, I really wanted to teach first grade. And so like even that was like a string of like I met this lady and that was like when I was like 19 or 20 and then I was like 23 and she texted me that they were hiring. Like so like even that was just like a string of events of like God just being so faithful. And I think as like living it, it's like you have to just be faithful to the next yes. And so like it might like look or feel different, but you have to just like be a faithful yes. And so yeah, there's just been so many like moments where it's just like God has proven his time and time again. And it's like I can look back on my life and just like see so clearly like when God showed up and it might have been like a small or like subtle or sometimes in a big way, but it's just so cool to see how God was just like, here you go, Jesse. And it like just like fell in my lap. Like just like our apartment and my job. And then just like even meeting Jacob, like it was just like so many strings of events of like, I was like dating some really questionable guys. And then God's like, I think you should be single for a little while. And so I was faithful in that. And then there's just like, a string of events and then I met Jacob. And so yeah, I just think that was so like looking back, I could tear up. It's just so sweet.
Oh. Yeah, if you guys don't know Jessie, she is just a slight, just a tiny bit of a crier. So not a huge one, just a little sometimes. She drops a tear here and there, but but no, I think that just captures God's true heart and emotions throughout the whole process. So I just love that he was able to create Jessie with that such just a huge heart, and to be able to demonstrate how much he truly cares about us, and yeah, just our whole life process and our just time with him to experience all these different life lessons. So I love that. Um, with all that, do you think, like, if there's something that God's doing in your life currently, either to prepare you for your next season, next miracle, or maybe it's just to grow your relationship with him, like, what do you think he's doing currently?
Do you want to share your answer?
Yeah. I definitely think just as of right now, starting this new journey in vocational ministry, I I definitely feel this, like, how do I put this into words? There's just this new level of resurrender that I need to continue to do. I really need to make sure that I'm leaning on God when, difficult times do arise in ministry, because there will be difficult times. It's not going to be all sunshines and rainbows.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, I definitely think just I'm going to be going through just a new set of problems that I've never faced before. And, I think that's just going to be a perfect time for me to go and really lean on God even more. And so, yeah, I think just going and preparing for that, preparing and making sure that I'm leaning on God in whatever situation or whatever trial comes my way.
Yeah. I think our like God is just preparing us like, you get married and you see how selfish you are, and then it's like you get a new job and then you see like how you like really want your like life to look, and you're kind of selfish in that and like your schedule and like your plans. And so I think like God is like just like stripping us of like who we like thought we were, or like who we tried to be, or just like our plans and like our wants and desires. And it's so beautiful because, well, one, we get to do it together. We're a team, but then it's like when we have put God in the center, like God will just be so fruitful in that. And so I think like our next season that he's preparing us for is to be a mom and a dad. Like,
Mm.
because it's like, we got married, they like stripped us, and then you got this new job and it's like stripping us still. And it's like, I think our next season, well, I want our next season into parenthood. But I really do think that God is preparing us for that.
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
so exciting. Yes, and also another fun fact about Jessie is she is just so excited to be a mom. Obviously, she loves kids so much as she's a teacher, but especially kids of her own. So that will be such a cool time, so fun, and yeah, just another growing experience, growing season. So I can't wait for that for you guys too. Um, I think. I don't know. I think those are good. Maybe like, what's I know you guys have kind of already talked about this just a little bit, but maybe like what's one piece of marriage advice that you would give
Mm.
to either engaged couples or like in a serious dating relationship, any of the above.
Yeah, I think I just want to first preface that, Jessie really does want to be a mom, but I just wanted to put it out there that I believe she's going to be the best mom out there. Um,
Yes.
so one piece of marriage advice. I truly believe marriage is probably going to be one of the most sanctifying acts that a person can go through. Dating is just fun. It's relaxed. Date nights. It's just dating is supposed to be fun, right? And I think once you get engaged and married, or especially early on, there's like this sense of, oh, but I want to make sure that I still am doing what I want to do. And sometimes in marriage you can't get that. I mean, Jesse and I talked from day one of us dating of like what we want our lives to look like, what we expect marriage to look like, things that we want to accomplish. We talked about all of our dreams and plans, and everything was lining up. And so I thought, oh man, like marriage is going to be such a piece of cake. Like this is going to be awesome. And we go and we get married, and you just truly see how selfish you are. I thought that I was a pretty, selfless person, and I was just like, oh man, like yeah, I love to serve. But then just understanding, like, oh man, like even though I am a Christian, even though I try to pick up my cross daily, I am still extremely selfish. And so yeah, like Jesse had talked about, it just kind of strips you. But I mean, I think my piece of marriage advice in that would be realize that this person that you are now married to is not just your girlfriend or your boyfriend. Like this is your spouse that you went and didn't just make a contract with, right? That you can tear up and easily get rid of, but someone that you made a covenant with. Like like this person now is going to be with you for the rest of your life, and just going and remembering that you guys are both just on the same team. It's not you versus them when hard things come up. It's you two versus the problem. So going and just making sure that you're constantly serving and just constantly remembering, like, this is the person I married, this is the person that I made a covenant with God with, and this is the person that is going to be the person that I care about the most, right? So I just think just a reminder for that they're on your team. You made a covenant with them, and like you're gonna have to go and be selfless. Make sure you're serving them every day.
Yeah.
It's good.
The piece of advice that I would give is that I kind of have like two. Like you can't. Oh, how do I want to word this? Like what comes your way will come eventually. Like you can't like force it all to happen. So like yes, we want to be parents, and like yes, we want to own a house one day, but it's like it doesn't have to happen overnight. So just like enjoy each season and like enjoy dating. If marriage is supposed to be what your next step is, like that will come. If kids are supposed to be your next season, like that will come. But you just have to be faithful in every season, and you can't like rush through it. And then my other piece of advice is that the person that God has for you, like it will just fit and it will just be easy. Not saying that like you won't have hard things or like, hard moments or like, family things or you like losing a job or money issues, but it's like how you two work together, like it will just be easy. It will fit, it will feel right, and it just will be like who God has intended for you. And when you're with somebody that you're like, oh yeah, this is not for me, like you should not continue that relationship if you think that God is like saying break up. And so like I wish I could just go back and tell Jesse like I don't need to like try to change myself. And so like that's the advice I'd give is like you don't need to change yourself because somebody that God has for you is going to love you and all of you. They're not going to try to change you. They're not going to try to be like you should be different or like push you to do things or like rush you or any of that. The person that God has for you, like it will just feel right, it will work, it'll be so good. And that's like in any season. That's in dating, that's in being engaged, that's in marriage. And yeah, that you're just like on this team together, and it's so beautiful. Like when God brings two people together that are supposed to be that He has intended, it's just so beautiful because it works. And like in our own life, like we've seen like people just like tell us like that's how we just like know that we didn't just like pick each other just because like I thought you were cute or you liked me or I like your laugh or like fill in the blank.
The hair.
Yeah. No, my hair. My
Yeah,
But it's like those things fade because we're gonna go gray one day. You could go bald one day. Like
Oof.
I could go bald soon. But like God brings two people together, it's because he has a greater purpose for them. And so people in our own life have like just told us like God has really brought you two together. And it's like so amazing to hear because I was in such a deep dark place with in my past relationships that like just to like see this now, like I all the time think I'm just like if just like 20-year-old Jessie could see like what her life looks like now and just like how dark of a place that she was once in
Yeah.
trying to be somebody that she wasn't or trying to make this relationship work, um just like that God is so faithful and he has somebody so perfect for you, and just like that we get to work together for his kingdom, like it's so so beautiful, and I love it. I could cry. But
That's so nice.
yeah, I mean,
Aw,
there's just like so many pieces of advice that I could give you, but God
yeah.
has
Oh yeah.
somebody so perfect for you, and you don't have to force it, and it will just feel so right. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it will just feel right.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think like discernment, obviously based off how you're actually feeling in that relationship and how your relationship with God is and during that time. And yeah, if they are like marriage is supposed to be a purpose like to bring both parties back to the Lord. And
Hmm.
so if they're just bringing you away, that's obviously not who God intended you to be with. And so I think that's a huge part of it. And I think you touched on that perfectly. Like you should be on the same team. You're serving the same God, like it's for the same goal. And so obviously the Lord will bring you two together and, you know, everything should feel like easy. Not like, everything's gonna be easy, but it
Right.
should feel like complete and like whole and holy as well. So yeah, I think you really touched on that really well. So
And I think people in your life that are like truly seeking God will give you some like wonderful advice, you know? So, like, a
yes.
couple of my mentors, my mom, my dad, my brothers, like, when I was in one of those relationships, they're like, Jessie, like, this is not for you. Like, this
Yeah.
is not good. And so, if I could go back, like, I would really listen to those people because at the time I was like, oh no, I'm fine. Everything's great. But it's like, I was
Yeah.
really in such a valley in a deep dark place, and I did know that like I was really struggling, um and so yeah, like the people that God has placed in your life, like make sure you seek and listen to those people if they are truly seeking Jesus. If they're like, oh, that person's just like not who I like, it's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's your own, like that's not God,
Right.
that's from you,
Right.
just your personal um
Yeah.
whatever you're making up in your
Yeah.
mind. But like the people that God has placed in your life, like use that and to help you discern. And then yeah, like God just has placed you where you're at for a reason. And yeah, I love that.
Wow, I love it. Such good advice. Yeah. Obviously, you can see they are just full of wisdom, still so young, just growing so much, just full of just pure love. I just love like just being able to experience your guys' love for each other too and for Christ, obviously, but like the way he just brings you guys together perfectly is just so fun. I just adore seeing this. My favorite thing. Yeah. What would you guys say is your favorite book of the Bible and why?
Mine, I would have said a different book, but lately, my favorite book is the Book of John. I've been rereading it, and I read it. I don't know if it's just like sentimental because I read it my first year of college, and like now I'm reading it. Like now I'm 25, and so I don't know if
Yeah.
it's just 19 to 25 is just like you live a lot of your life. Like just many seasons happen from 19 to 25,
Yeah.
at least for me. And
Hmm.
so I don't know if just like rereading it is just like, oh my gosh, like I just like see how God was really at work in the past 6 years of my life. And I just like love seeing that, God is faithful and fruitful. And I love seeing my past like annotations in my Bible. So like I would definitely say whatever book is your favorite, like make those notes. Like start
Yeah.
writing, start highlighting, start adding like little pieces of paper because it's so cool to like look back and see like what I wrote or like what I underlined or what I thought. And then now I can like underline and like write what I think, and it's just so cool to see. But the book of John is so important, I think, because it is one of the books that like really show just like Jesus's life, his ministry, and it's like really easy for us to be like, how am I like walking and how am I doing my job? Like, am I interruptible? Like when Jesus was like always just like whatever the disciples needed or whoever needed his help, like he was interruptible. And it's like, am I like doing am I able to be like, oh my gosh, this person needs help, let me go help them. And it's like I'm not just like here for my agenda and like what I want in a selfish way. And it's like, am I helping people, you know? That's just like one example from the book of John. I mean, there's so many different examples because the book of John is just so good. But yeah, I think that's my favorite book right now.
Yeah. I think mine, I have two.
You can only have one.
I have two. So I think my favorite one would probably be John as well.
I thought you were gonna say Mark.
I love John because of all the, just like all the pointings to Christ as God. Like I think there's so many defenses for Jesus being God found in the Gospel of John. You know, I think that was the very first gospel I ever read too when I became a Christian. Like that was the very first book I ever read was the Gospel of John. So that just has a super special place in my heart. And my second one would be the Proverbs. There's just so much good wisdom in there. And I love it too because there's 31 chapters and there's 30 or 31 days in a month. So you go and I try to make it a goal to read a proverb every day. You know, February is a little tricky because the last day I pack 3 in there or 4.
You're 4, yeah.
28, 29, 30, and 31. So yeah, 4 chapters in
You're not
there.
a teacher.
I know.
Can't count.
I know. But so yeah, but the Proverbs and the Gospel of John are my favorite.
To say there's so many miracles in the Bible.
There is.
You're a miracle podcast.
So many. Yes.
Yep.
I know. So many. Yeah, it's actually so funny because I tried the church before, and then this past week I tried another church, and I found online they're going through a miracles series right now, and I was like,
Oh, nice.
no way. Yeah, so
That's awesome.
it's been really cool. I love the pastor a lot. So, and I've only been 1 week, so I look forward to going again. But that was such a father-like answer, by the way, Jacob. That's like, that's literally exactly what my dad would teach us, or our dad would teach us when we were growing up. Like, he was like, yeah, like, you know, if you need somewhere to start in the Bible, just read a proverb every day. There's usually, you know, there's 31, so you can usually have one for every single day. So that's so funny that you say that. I think that's hilarious. But wow, well, it has been just such a joy to bring you guys on. Thank you so much for just sharing your life and how Jesus has moved and worked and changed you in all the different seasons to get you to where you are today, and yeah, just fulfill what he has planned for your life and everything else that he has planned for you. So thank you guys.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I just want to say, like, thank you for your faithfulness. Like, we, as your leaders at Bible Study, like, we just got to see how much you grew, and I just think that's like a testament to your own testimony too. But just like how God uses you, and like, I just love who you are because you're like extroverted and you're just like the life of the party, but like you bring Jesus wherever you go, like, and you are quick to make friends, and you're quick to invite them to church or invite them to Bible study or invite them to like go running. I could never, but God uses you to go running. But yeah, just we've seen how God has been at work and how you said yes and how you've just like fully like ran after it, and yeah, like that God is using you. And so in Florida, just remember, like, God has you there for a reason. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you guys so much.
Oh yeah. Thank you for this experience too.
Yes,
I
of
know.
course.
I know. Before you moved to Florida, you had talked about starting this, and I was super excited because I know God's gonna go and, you know, he's gonna make this blow up just because you have it centered on him. So, but yeah, thank you for having us on here.
Yes, I know. It's been like a 3-year dream, so finally I need to do it. So yes, yeah.
We're so
But
proud of you.
Yeah, we're proud of you,
thank you
Kennedy.
so much. It's honestly, it's truly just so fun. Like, even if it's just like a hobby, like, I just find so much joy in hearing people's story and just being able to share that and encourage people. So I love it. Thank you guys so much. All right. Bye.